Everyone for joining us. This is the Artemis Roads 3 Mission Advisor Support Session 2. Just to remind you guys, this will be recorded and we will post the slides online so you can reference them later if you just want to look up something that we put in the slides. Where you find this is I should have put this on the slide, but if you go to the main challenge page, there is a big button for live events. And the challenge schedule. If you click on that, that's where we're going to put a link to the recording and also a link to these slides. So I'll go on here. So yeah, if you guys don't know yet, I am Dr. Darcy Snowden. I'm the director of NESB, and I'm also a physics professor at Central Washington University. I'm joined by Deanna Marshall. I'm sure many of you, if not all of you guys, have spoken with or interacted in some way with Deanna, our program manager. Anita Sheena is here today. She's our office assistant extraordinaire. So many of you guys have also interacted with her. And then Mary Levine is not here today, but she is the program coordinator or project coordinator focused largely on professional development and the companion course. So many of you guys have probably interacted with her as well. Okay. And what are we doing today? Well, this is, again, this mission support session assumes that you guys have started the challenge with your students. So, and hopefully everybody here has submitted a checkpoint. So we're kind of going a little bit deeper into some of the details of what you need to do to complete the challenge and also some opportunities like the in-person challenge event that's coming up. And then at the very end, we'll provide a little bit of support on some of the mission objectives that are a little bit trickier to do with your students. So that's the robots one and the rocket one. And then at the very end, we'll have open time for questions. Although just like Deanna put in the chat, if you have questions as we go, feel free to put them in the chat and we can try to address them as we're cruising along in the slides. Okay, so we'll get started. That's a long list of things. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first reminder is just that for everybody that submitted checkpoint 1 and uploaded your team's mission patches, we are celebrating those mission patches right now on our NESB social media. Patches are being posted daily. And so here, this is a nice little collage of some of the mission patches that were submitted by teams. And they're really fun to just look at and see the different ways that teams took this. Some people used AI, some people have hand-drawn mission patches. Some people incorporated something about their school or their community. So we encourage you to check them out and like them so that students feel supported. And if you're curious about when your team's mission patches are going to be posted, NESB is sending emails to mission advisors 1 to 2 days before their team patch is posted. So if you're not getting those emails, it's possible sometimes that our email ends up in your spam, because we do send a lot of mass emails as we go through the challenge. So if you're not getting an email that you think you should be getting, feel free to email us at info, and we can double check and make sure that we did send the emails that you were expecting. Okay, up next is just a reminder that we are getting through our NASA expert talk. So we've had 2 already, and we just want to remind you that there's another one coming up in March. So our next NASA expert talk will be on March 26th at 4 p.m. Pacific time. And you can go onto our events and announcements page to find the Zoom link for that talk if you guys would like to join it live. And we have Dr. Caitlin Ahrens, and she's actually joined us before. She's a planetary scientist that works at NASA. And her expertise is geology and doing things like training some of the astronauts in the field. And so she just emailed us and said she was just back from Death Valley, which is pretty exciting. So we encourage you guys to join us for that. Okay, I'm just going to stop here. My audio is doing weird things, so you guys can still hear me okay, right? Deanna, give me the thumbs up. Okay, good.
But it is getting weird from time to time. If it gets really weird, I'll get your attention.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so we've already had 2 NASA expert talks, and we had good attendance and excellent questions during both of them. So thanks for the teams that were able to join us live. However, I'd like to remind you that if you were not able to join live, that's totally fine. Both of these NASA expert talks are available on our YouTube page to watch for the first time or rewatch. The links are on this slide, but you can also just go to our YouTube page, which is fairly easy to find, and you should be able to find these two talks quite easily. All right, and then the last reminder, I think lots of teams have already done this, but if you have not, please take a little bit of time to have your students complete the pre-challenge surveys. Again, we are a grant-funded program, and one of the things that's required of our grant is to collect data and information about the effectiveness of what we're doing. And so this is one of the important metrics that we collect, basically a challenge survey that we administer to students before they go through the challenge, and then they take another short survey after, and that allows us to see the impact that the challenge has had on them. So if you go to your Rhodes Educator page, there is a link on the left that says complete the pre-challenge surveys. What I'm showing on the slide here is the information stuff. So if you scroll down, you're able to get to the part that actually has unique URLs for each team. So you use that URL for all of the members of an individual team. And that's basically how we keep track. We don't keep track of like names or what students complete it. We just keep track of like a conglomerate for each team. So that team will get the same URL when they complete the post survey. Okay. That's all of the reminders. Again, if you guys have any questions about what I've said so far, feel free to throw it in the chat and we can try to address it. Okay, if not, we will continue on. So checkpoint 1. Are you guys hearing that? That is getting...
It just started getting a little intense right now, Darcy.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to move where my phone is and see if that works. I'm having some audio issues with my computer that I refuse to actually try to fix until I'm about to give a presentation, which is not the right way to do it. Okay, we'll see if we can go a little further. So we wanted to talk a little bit about checkpoint 1, even though this deadline has passed, and just give you guys additional information about what we're doing with the information if your information changes. So checkpoint 1 has closed. We did extend the deadline, but at this point that form is closed. So what that means is you cannot add any additional student team members to your team because we need to have a risk and release form for everybody participating in the challenge. And that was the opportunity for you guys to upload that form. If you have team students that decide they no longer want to do the challenge, hold on, I'm just going to, we'll see if that fixes it. Okay. If you have student team members that decide they don't want to do the challenge, you can consolidate teams. So take 2 teams and consolidate them into 1. If you need to do that, just email info@NSB and we can update your information to keep the number of teams current. If you go on your Rhodes Educator page, and we encourage everybody to do that, even right now, if you can do that while you're listening to me talk, go back, maybe I'll go back a few slides. If you click on view mission status here, okay, there may be a note that says forms need attention. If that is the case, that means that the risk and release forms that you uploaded for your team maybe had an issue. Maybe they were missing a signature or the photo of it wasn't the full form or something like that. If it says that, please, look at the form that you uploaded, address the issue, try to get that form re-signed. You cannot upload it anymore because that form submission is no longer open. But hold on to it, and we're going to provide another opportunity to upload those corrected forms after checkpoint 2 closes. So it'll be just a short form that you can use to upload that information. Again, this is just a requirement. We can't make exceptions. Unfortunately, that's required by our institution that we have those forms.
Darcy,
Yes.
I have your audio open both on your video and your phone. So make sure your audio on your computer is muted.
Oh, it's not. Okay. That would be the problem. That'll probably fix it. Thank you.
You're
Thought
welcome.
I muted that. Okay. Okay, last thing. Loan. So if you did not complete checkpoint one, hopefully everyone here did. That basically means that you are not participating in the challenge. That was a required form, unfortunately. And again, we needed to collect the information on that in order to make sure that we are following our organization rules for all the teams participating. So because we loan supplies to mission advisors who are participating in the challenge, if you did not complete that form, we will be emailing you and asking you to return the loan supplies by March 14th. So just if you are in that category, go ahead and look out for that email. There's also the possibility if you signed up for 10 teams and then during checkpoint one, turns out you only had 5, we may ask you to return some of the loan material. And again, the whole reason why we ask you to return it is so that we can support as many teams as possible across the country. And then finally, checkpoint one, mission payload. So we will be mailing out some recognition for your teams that completed checkpoint one. We're expected to start shipping them next week with the delivery by March 20th. Someone has to sign for the package. So it's always best if we have an email that's a school or organization. So someone's there at the office to sign for things. And then packages, we can't really reroute them or resend them if the delivery is missed. So, they'll be sent by FedEx. So you'll have a couple of opportunities to sign for them before they send them back. But just be on the lookout for that. All right, those are the checkpoint one updates. And then the last thing is, again, just remind you guys that you can always see the status of the teams by looking at your mission status page. So at this point, right, we can show you whether or not you have completed checkpoint one. And then when checkpoint two passes, we'll update that as well. All right. So another important thing we like to do during this second support session is let you guys know a little bit more details about these in-person hub events. And this is the list. We've shown you this list of events and dates before. We do have a bit of an update for Idaho just because of the number of teams that we had registering in Idaho and where they were. We did decide not to do the Idaho Southeast event, which was going to be in Idaho Falls. So hopefully those teams can make it to the Boise event, which is, Idaho's a weird shaped state, so I know that's still kind of far away, but often those people in Idaho are used to driving long distances. I'm from Montana and we often drove 7 hours for events. But these are the dates. So I'm not going to read them off, but go ahead. If you're near one of these, make a note of the date so you know when to expect it. And we have slides for each of the events, providing a little bit more details. Each of the events is hosting their own event at their own organization. So each event has a little bit of a different way of doing things. What happens at the event is very similar, but in terms of like the number of people they can support and the logistics of it can be a bit unique. So we'll just quickly go through these slides. They will be available for you to look at later. So I'm not going to go in all of the detail, but one of our events is at the University of Texas at Austin. And our coordinators for that event are Selena Miller and Margaret Baggio. These are amazing, very experienced folks that have been working on NASA education outreach for a long time. They invite teams, and the teams that are invited are notified by April 4th, but they've had a good ability to invite all the teams in Texas that want to participate. Again, Texas is another big state, so this event does have the ability to lodge teams that are traveling long distances, so that you can attend this event without, driving really early in the morning or having to drive late at night with your students. Next up,
Darcy,
yeah.
we have a couple questions in the chat, and one I
Okay.
definitely want to address now. In the chat, they said Texas had no funds, and I wanted to make sure we address that immediately.
Yeah. So there has been, I'm sure, have you guys been watching the news? We try to isolate you guys from the bumpiness of what's going on and how the federal government is affecting programs like ours. But Texas will have funds, we are planning having an event at Texas. So if you heard that, it might be because it was a little bit outdated information. Is there another question?
There's actually, let's go ahead and do two. There was a question at the beginning and I was going to save it to the last, but we're here. How do the new president's executive orders affect our programs?
Yeah, that's a good question. You guys can tell me. What I will tell you about the president's executive orders are that because they're fairly vague, they are creating a lot of uncertainty for programs like ours, and they are creating a lot of stress and kind of uncertainty at NASA generally. So we are doing our best to continue doing what we do. We are not a DEI program. We are open to anybody that signs up, and we encourage all kinds of teams from all across the country. So I don't think there's a good reason to think we will be significantly affected. However, it is possible down the road we might be affected in some ways, but we'll let you guys know if that happens. But until that happens, we are continuing the best we can. Okay.
Second question that
Yes.
came was regarding the event in North Carolina.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
this year we're not hosting one in North Carolina, and I'll go for it.
Yeah, so we're not hosting an event in North Carolina. We were very fortunate to have an event there for several years, but the folks that were coordinating that event requested a break this year. So we will not be having an event this year in North Carolina, unfortunately.
Okay. Meg, I suggest that we will get, Meg says she might have more updated information regarding Texas than we have.
Yeah.
So
Selena just emailed about 20 minutes ago.
Oh, okay. Well, if you
Yeah.
don't mind, we can talk about that at the end, because I don't want to, because that doesn't affect everybody.
Yeah.
But yes, it's a bit of a rocky road. So it's very possible that something significant changed within the last hour. That's kind of what we're dealing with these days, as you guys are probably too in K through 12 education. All right, let's keep going down the list as if we don't have any updates from the last hour. So Montana State University, that's our hub in Montana. And again, you can see the date there. This one, God, Bozeman is a very popular place to travel, so it's a little bit challenging for them to get hotel blocks. So a unique thing about this event is that you may need to book your own accommodations and then seek reimbursement after, but you'll get more details on that if you need accommodations for your team traveling to that event. Rhiannon Fleming is our coordinator for that event, and so she will be in contact with teams helping you out. And yeah, they will be in contact with you shortly after the March 10th deadline. Here we are at Washington and Oregon. We do that at Central Washington University. So Deanna is our hub coordinator for that event. So we probably have the most details if you have questions on this one. But yeah, we do also offer travel support for this event, and teams that travel stay in the dorms here on campus if they need accommodation or qualify for accommodation. And again, we'll be contacting teams after the March 10th deadline. And then going down the list, Arizona has a fun kind of hybrid event. They combine their Artemis or their Roads Challenge event with another robotics event that they do as well. So if you want to learn the most about their event, they encourage teams in Arizona to sign up for the robotics education newsletter, which you can using that QR code. And their coordinators are Ann Hamlin and Stephanie Jackson. And they also can accommodate some teams on campus for room and board if you need to. All right, and then finally, Idaho. Idaho has two separate hub events, so you can pick the one that is closest to you. One will be at University of Idaho in Moscow, Idaho. The other one's at Boise State University. And this is because there's not a lot of teams in Idaho. They're offering mileage support for all teams. So lucky you if you're in Idaho. And they can accommodate some some teams in hotels if needed. Susan Stoffer is our coordinator for the Idaho event, and she will again be contacting you shortly after the deadline. Okay, that's all the hub events. Again, they are focused a little bit in the Northwest, although a spattering in Arizona and Texas. I know this is a national challenge, so that's always hard for us not to be able to have an in-person event for all teams, but we can't currently support events in every single state. So just a few other additional notes here. The travel support is not guaranteed to all teams. And again, how each hub event has to do it depends on their own particular organization. So the emphasis normally is on teams traveling a larger distance. We're really just trying to get it so you guys aren't, again, piling in the car at 2 a.m. or whatever. If you are getting travel support, we recommend you confirm that you are getting travel support. So make sure you have that confirmation from your hub coordinator. And then you really do have to coordinate with your hub coordinator to make sure that you are documenting what you need to do correctly in order to get reimbursed. So that means collecting receipts. Maybe that means making a certain type of reservation and not another type of reservation. So just make sure you understand the rules correctly, because again, at universities, we have specific rules about what kinds of things we're allowed to reimburse and what kind of documentation that we need in order to make that reimbursement. And then just a reminder, we know that parents and siblings and things like that like to come to some of these events. Just because of the way that our grant is written, we're not allowed to provide support for non-participants. So that means people that are not student team members or mission advisors or chaperones. So just be cognizant of that. And especially applies to like food and things like that. If there's a dinner, that might mean that we can't feed the parents, things like that. Okay. Again, if you've got, I actually can't see your questions, but Deanna will let me know if something pops up. And I'll keep going. Okay, so what to expect at an in-person hub event. Again, we think these are important because it's fun for the students to actually get to showcase what they've done to the other teams, but also to the NESB staff and folks that are out there at the event. Students get to go onto a college campus or a community college and have that experience. And sometimes the events can incorporate some of the facilities like planetarium or something like that at that campus to kind of elevate the experience. There's interactions with STEM professionals. These events have talks at them. They're fun. I think an added benefit that we've seen is that sometimes students that feel like they're struggling with one of the mission objectives, like the robotics one, it can help to go to one of these events and like see another peer group maybe accomplish that challenge or get some help from another peer group. Sometimes that kind of support can really push teams over a hump in order to see that, right, this thing that we're asking them to do is possible, and they'll go back and actually figure out how to get it done. So in-person hub events, we try to describe in fairly good detail what needs to happen in mission objective 8A. So 8A is for people that are going to the in-person events. And so make sure to read that for guidance and instructions on what to do. In general, event logistics, they're all going to be one-day events. And again, what the exact schedule is going to vary by location. You will get that from your hub coordinator. But generally, it goes from something like 8 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. And just to summarize what's in Mission Objective 8, again, and if students don't have some component of this, that's okay. Like if they didn't do the water bottle rocket thing, that doesn't mean they can't come to the event. But this is the kind of, when we schedule the event and come up with the event details, we're kind of assuming that this is what teams will come to do. Okay. So if they don't have a rocket, again, they'll just skip that part of the event, but there will be a part of the event to demonstrate your rocket. So teams should be ready to demonstrate whatever their current state of their human rated water bottle rocket is. They will be able to demonstrate their lunar rovers on a challenge map. And then instead of giving presentations like PowerPoint presentations, we're going to do more like a science fair type expo event where they will have trifold posters on tables, and on those posters they can show off what they've done for some of the other mission objectives. And then we'll find a way for them to also show off their mission patch, which everybody has already done. This is just an example schedule for an in-person event. Again, they're going to be they will vary, but just in case you're kind of wondering what to expect, there will be registration. because of all of the different, like the rover and the rocket and everything like that, and we've got some other kind of surprise events that will happen, we'll probably have teams rotate through those events in the morning. They will get fed, so lunch will be provided. And then again, maybe they'll go through and do their science fair like expo. And most events will have all events will have some kind of a closing ceremony. And most events will have another opportunity to feed the teams before we send you home, or in some cases, provide housing for another night. There's a note here that we try to accommodate spectators as much as we can, but some activities, like for example, the lunch, may be limited to the teams and mission advisors, and that is just due to space constraints. Here at Central, sometimes it's, we're expecting like 100 team members and mission advisors, so it can be hard for us to find a room that's big enough to feed all those people, plus, right, their parents. So that's why we limit those events. Okay, so what to do if your team cannot attend an in-person hub event? This is a national challenge. We've got a lot of teams that are way too far away from a hub event to attend. So that's why we have mission objective B. And frankly, even if you are right next to a hub event, there may be a reason why your team can't or doesn't want to go to the in-person event. So basically, that's totally fine. If you choose not to come to an in-person event, it's optional. If you are not planning on attending an in-person event, we still ask you to demonstrate the same mission objectives by recording videos that will be submitted during your final submission. So when you submit the final mission development log of your team, there will be an option to upload videos of like the rocket getting launched and the rover going through the course to demonstrate that your team did those mission objectives. For those teams that are too far away to go to an in-person event, we do encourage that you find a way to showcase your work locally or in your region. So that could be a STEM night at your school. It could be a science fair in your state. So we provide some resources to look for those types of events. But I think the type of work the students are doing is definitely worthy of being presented publicly in some way. Okay, going down the list. So how to complete checkpoint 2. So that's coming up, and registration for an in-person event. So the next kind of checkpoint update for teams is checkpoint 2. We call this mission progress update. The main purpose, frankly, of checkpoint 2 is for us to collect information on how many teams are attending in-person hub events, because that allows us to plan the events. It's not great if we just get surprised by how many people are arriving on that day. So what we'd like you guys to do before you upload the form is just make sure you're talking to the team members and their parents just to see who can attend on that date. And then be ready to upload basic info. So we're just asking for name, gender, age, those kind of things. The reason why we ask for that info is because, especially if you need travel accommodations, we need that info to figure out how to sort the students into dorm rooms and things like that. So that's why we're asking for it. But these forms should be easier to complete than the checkpoint 1. You won't need to get, at least for our form, anything signed by parents. You will be asked to submit an initial MDL. This does not have to be final. It's just, let's just prove to us that your team has started to work on the MOs beyond MO1, which is the MDL, and MO2. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. So this is just some frequently asked questions that you guys might have. So where do I complete the form? The form will be located on the left-hand side of your Roads Educator page. Frankly, we were hoping to have it available today, but because of the bumpiness of what's been going on with the federal government, we were kind of unsure about what to put in that form until recently. So it will be available very soon. So hoping to get it up tomorrow. And we do offer form previews, so just slides that you can click through and just see what you might need to upload for the form, so that you don't have to start it and then discover you don't have all the information that you need. Do I need to get anything signed by the parents? You won't need to for the form itself. However, if you're one of the teams that still has incomplete risk and release forms, those do have to be completed. And again, we're going to provide another opportunity to upload those after checkpoint 2. And it's possible that the institutions where these other hub events are taking place at require their own types of risk and release forms. So if you're going to say Boise State or something like that, it's possible that they may ask you to sign a form that is Boise State specific. What do I mean by initial MDL? Just evidence that your team has started working on the MOs. So just what you don't have to format it nicely or check the spelling. Just if it's got a few pictures and some text describing the progress, download that MDL as a PDF, and then you just upload it in the form. So we're just going to be taking a quick look at it just to make sure you guys are going to be prepared to attend the event. If you need to change the number of teams or update team members from checkpoint 1, again, just email info@NESB with that information, and we can consolidate the team information behind the scenes and update your mission status on your profile form. And then if the information you provide in checkpoint 2 changes after you submit the form, that's okay too. But again, it's best just to email us as soon as you know what you want to change, and we can go in our system and change that. Okay, do all the students on the team need to attend? No, you don't have to have the full team attend the event. It's fine if some of the team members can't make it. The mission advisor does need to chaperone the student, so you can't just send them with parents without the mission advisor. However, if you've got more than one team, it's possible that these multiple teams will be on different places on the campus. So each team does need to have its own chaperone. So we just don't have students kind of wandering around by themselves. So that the hub coordinator may require additional adults to supervise multiple teams. And it's possible that those adults will need a background check. In fact, they will need a background check, but we will pay for that. So they'll just have to go online and fill out the information. Okay, if your team fails to complete checkpoint 1 and or checkpoint 2, basically you cannot attend a in-person event. That's the whole point of these forms, and we need that information in order to plan the event. And if you're not planning on attending an in-person hub event, we still want you to complete checkpoint 2. The form will be a lot easier for you to complete, but it's just confirmation that your team is still active in the challenge. So it's just a quick click on there, a quick response to submit that checkpoint. And then what happens next? I described this a little bit, but after March 10th, you will be contacted after March 10th, if you want to go to an in-person hub event, you will receive an email from the hub coordinator with an introduction and additional details to help you plan your travel to that event. Okay, sorry, that was a lot of text, but we're trying to make it easy for you guys. So apologize for that. All right, I'm gonna. Yeah.
Darcy,
Yes.
real quick, a couple things I want to make clear regarding our hub event.
Yep.
For the most part, attendance to our hub event is limited to Montana, Idaho, Oregon, and Washington. We provide mileage, so if you're trying to fly to us from New Jersey, unfortunately, that will not work. Even though you are outside the 150-mile round trip, that is
Yeah.
definitive. We are limited to mileage only. I saw that as a question, and also regarding our hub event in particular, Ellensburg, we will require the NASA media release from everyone that is attending. There will be photographers here. We will have our school's photographer. There is no way to guarantee that anyone attending will not have their picture taken or have it posted. So I need to make sure everybody knows that well in advance, because it comes up every year, and I want to make sure everybody's comfortable with why we require the NASA media release to come to our event. Each hub event coordinator will require probably different forms, because everyone's a little different in how they run their programs. So thank you, everyone, for understanding.
Yeah. And we do know how hard it is to get those forms signed correctly. So you do the good work. We appreciate it. Okay. Any other questions before we're going to go into, just so it's a bit of a left turn here. So everything I've presented so far is logistics, and there will be time at the end if you have more logistics questions. But I'm just going to go over some slides to help you guys a little bit with the robots and the rover MOs. And also, I'm sure you guys will have questions about that as well. So I'll keep going unless Deanna interrupts me with more questions. Okay.
Go for it.
All right. So the first one I wanted to talk about is robots and programming. This is MO5, roving under the moon. Okay. And we're excited about this one because it's all about lava tube exploring rovers. So this really is something that NASA is working on. If you guys listen to the NASA expert, the last NASA expert, Ross did mention lunar lava tubes and how cool they are and how interested NASA is in them. I mean, it's possible there's interesting things inside like water. It's also possible that astronauts could have shelters in these types of environments on the moon. But if you're going to send a robot into these lava tubes, it's hard to communicate with them and drive them remotely. So they have to be able to somehow autonomously or on their own explore the lava tube and send information back to NASA. So that's what this one is all about, which is exciting, I think. And I just want to remind you guys, this is literally copied and pasted from the MO, so I'm kind of cheating. But if you are totally new to NESB and the challenge, and also totally new to robotics and programming, they can seem overwhelming, the companion course lessons, because they're long, there's a lot to them. But even if you're not doing this in a formal education environment, it's worth poking through there and just looking at the resources and seeing if there's something there that you can use to help your team be successful. So, for example, Companion Course Lesson 5, which is the one that's aligned with this mission objective, it has some things just to help students get started generally with programming the Lego rovers in particular, so either the Spike or the EV3. And that includes like slides and activities and worksheets that can help them build the rover, help them with the software. So actually open the software in their computer and navigate the software, including some of the built-in tutorials in the Lego software that can help you learn how to program the rovers. There's some slides that show the code blocks for driving straight and turning, and some additional things with the sensors. And then this map here is from the companion course. And so this is just a little challenge you can give them just to drive a simple path. And you don't have to have this exact map, but it's a nice way just to get the students going straight and turning their robot and just doing some of the basic programming. Students, by the way, usually pick this up. We've done this all different ways with students in summer camps and in the classroom. You'd be surprised at how quickly students pick this up, even when you have no idea what they're doing, like because they're quite engaged with the way that the software works. Okay, so that's just generally if you need help getting the rover working, this is a great place. If you're having like a specific problem with the software or updates or something's just not working at all, like that's when you want to email us and try to get some extra help. And you're also welcome to email us just generally, but there are some resources already available. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the MO in particular. So the challenge in the mission objective is to design like a rover that can autonomously navigate tunnels. And so what I have here is actual pictures of what that final challenge map can look like. The map itself is not huge. In the past, we've had like huge challenge maps for these NESB challenges, and teachers were like, oh, where do I put this? Or like, where can I possibly lay this out in my classes? So we're trying to keep the map a reasonable size so that it's not hard to store and use. So the maps are only 150 centimeters by 100 centimeters. So they're not huge. And each of these little grid squares that you see on the map is 20 centimeters by 20 centimeters. And you don't even really need this base map. It's kind of fun. But really the point of the base map is just to give a grid that you can lay out these tunnel segments on in order to build a course for your robot to drive through. So there's a couple of different examples here. And what the robot should be able to do is you just set it to enter this tunnel segment, and it should all by itself be able to drive through, sense this wall here, figure out that it needs to turn right, sense this wall, figure out it needs to turn left, and so on. That same robot should then be able to be placed in front of this thing without any changes to its program and also navigate this tunnel. So it has to not be remote controlled. It needs to be autonomous. Okay. How do you build the tunnels? Well, what I've done here is actually I did this very quickly, so it might look prettier than this at the final challenge events, but what I did here was just use foam board. But teams can choose to build the tunnel however they choose. If they want to steam it out and get very artistic, we'd be very happy to see that. We do provide in the slides about the final challenge map. There is some kind of these little instructions for building the tunnel segments like what I had in that picture out of foam board. The tunnel should be at least 15 centimeters tall to accommodate the spike Lego robot, but if your team is building a taller robot, obviously you're going to need a taller tunnel. You don't even really need to have a roof on the tunnels if you don't want to. It doesn't affect the way the robot drives. So if you wanted to have this open, it could be open. There's lots of ways to do it. Maps at the in-person events will be 20 centimeters wide. So these are the ones that we're providing. So make sure that your students aren't going crazy with the rover build and building a huge rover, because that's actually pretty narrow for the rovers. If you have teams that are using a different robot that's bigger, or they want to build a bigger rover, they can choose to make their own larger tunnels. But if those teams are also planning on demonstrating the robot at an in-person challenge event, we just ask that you bring that stuff with you so that they can lay it out and show off their robot, because we won't have obviously the tunnels that you have. The best way to actually do this is to use the distance sensor that is provided with the Lego robots. This is a ultrasonic sensor, so it's using sound waves bouncing off surfaces and then detecting them as they come back to the sensor to figure out how far away objects are away in front of them. So there's different ways to do it, but this is the way that we recommend teams do it. Again, if they find another way, good for them. But because this is the best way we think to do it, we do have a video here that talks about programming and making decisions with the distance sensor. So please check that out if you need help. And then we recommend that you try to encourage the students to scaffold their own learning with this. That means, they shouldn't necessarily build this thing and just go to town on the full tunnel course. They should probably start simple. So can they use the distance sensor to make a decision like not running into a wall? So just stopping in front of a wall, and then they can build just a simple corner and see if they can figure out a way to use the distance sensor to navigate just that corner. And then they can build a bigger and bigger tunnel course and see how their robot navigates it. They're going to have to make little minor adjustments about how the robot churns and things like that, or, where it stops in front of the wall in order to navigate that course correctly. I'm not playing these videos, by the way. They're going to be in the slides for reference later. There is an option. Again, you can choose to not do this if you don't think your team can do another additional challenge, but we do have a lot of experienced teams that might take on the tunnel challenge and complete it fairly quickly. So we wanted to add another additional component. And again, this is recreating what a lunar robot might do on the moon, right? They're going to not just navigate through the tunnels, but they're going to do some science. They're going to collect some data. So if you have a robot that's navigating the tunnels, you can add a downward facing color sensor to measure the color of the surface. So we did provide a map that just has a bunch of colors that you can print out, or we provided a PDF with squares of different colors that are the right size to tape onto your map on the surface. Lots of different ways to do it. But basically the point will be that the rover, in theory, right, if this is covered by tunnels, you wouldn't be able to see the color. So as the rover is driving through, it will be sending color data back to the computer that the rover is attached to through Bluetooth. And then the students can observe that color data and even map what they think the surface color is underneath the tunnel on something like this worksheet. So this data visualization, if you want to plot the red, green, and blue values measured by the color sensor, you do need to go in and add some things to the software. It's not something that just comes with a default version that you download, but it's really quick and easy to add those enhanced features. So in this video, if you play it, I show you how to do that. And then I show you actually how to make the kind of plot you're seeing here, which again is just measuring the intensity of these 3 different colors detected by the color sensor. Yeah, thank you for putting that in the chat, Deanna. So Deanna did put the link to the final challenge map in the chat. Okay, I'm going to pause there just to see if anyone has any quick questions about the rover stuff.
You've got a question rather than me look up the answer real quick and send them the link. Keller, Brian wants to know, are the color squares mainly for the high school students? I believe that is for all.
Yeah, middle school or high school. It just depends on, your group of students. I would say if you have middle school students that have 0 experience with robotics, they might not get to the color sensing. They may just, or programming in general, they may feel accomplished enough with the programming. But man, we've got a lot of middle school students that have got a lot of experience programming rovers. So I don't want to say one way or the other. I know that's not a full answer, but from our perspective, it doesn't matter what age they are. Any other questions?
Hold on. Let's see. Do we just have the elementary? Oh, so do we just have elementary kids tape the colored squares randomly to practice?
Yeah, you could do that. Yes. So the idea with the color, if again, and I would try to get them to make sure they can navigate the tunnel first, but let's say you've got this map and this is one that I printed out that didn't have the colors. So we do have a version that has the colors that if you want, you could print that one out. And then obviously when you change the configuration of the tunnel, that would change the configurations of the colors at the surface of the tunnel. But if you have this map or another map, I mean, frankly, you could just make this on paper by hand. You don't have to print it. If you have a map like that, yeah, you can cut out the color squares and just have them randomly put them at the surface here, whatever order they want. And that could be a great way to practice.
Jen's got a question I hadn't thought about. She's having issues with the touch sensor pushing through the walls. Is it covered in the video or do we have advice for her?
I would say my advice would be this is kind of why we're recommending. So students might think the touch sensor is the best sensor, but if we put ourselves on the moon, that would be like creating a robot that just ran into the sides of the lunar tunnel and then decided to turn. It's maybe not the most sophisticated way to navigate a tunnel, right? When we all have autonomously driving vehicles, we'd probably rather not run into the buildings that we're trying to navigate around. So I would encourage your students maybe using the Socratic method to try using the distance sensor, which will allow them to stop before they hit the tunnel to do the turn. Or they're going to have to build some sturdier tunnels.
That's all the questions here.
Okay.
Anita, are you getting any questions on your end?
No, I'm not.
Okay. All right, cool.
Clear as mud then. Perfect. All right, we're almost done. I know this is a long one. Okay. The last one that I wanted to talk about is the rockets one, designing a human-rated rocket. This one, again, we're going back to the rocket thing that we did during Artemis 2, but we're acknowledging the fact that SLS, the Space Launch System, is not only a powerful rocket, but it is a rocket designed to launch humans into space, which actually adds a lot more constraints to how NASA can build that rocket and makes it a lot more challenging to build. So we'd like to challenge your teams to also create a rocket that can be safe for a chipsternaut or some other kind of passenger. So they're going to be adding a capsule to their rocket that can keep a crew safe. So again, the companion course has a lot of resources. In particular, we've got some information about SLS and this fun dummy that they put on the initial flight of SLS during Artemis Roads 1, or not Artemis Roads, Artemis 1, the actual mission, called Commander Munikin Campos. And then there's some slides and activities to help them understand rocket flight generally and how to build a stable rocket. And then again, the point of these lessons is to encourage the engineering design process. So there's some resources to help students iterate on a design for both the rocket and the capsule in order to create something that's going to work. And then if you really get far, you can explore the Extend, which has some information on simulating the rocket's flight. That, by the way, is very much a high school activity, I think. The simulating the rocket flight, that's not an easy piece of software. Okay. I'm going to skip this guy. So I just wanted to give for this section a little bit of advice. I think a lot of people, obviously the students have a lot of fun building the water bottle rockets. But there are some things that can be frustrating if you're not kind of leading them down the correct path initially. So, and we've also got a lot of questions on this one already. So in terms of the capsule, some tips that I wanted to provide are, the first is that the capsule can be placed anywhere on the rocket you want, but it doesn't really make sense to add a lot of asymmetry to your rocket, rotational asymmetry. So most teams will put it somewhere along the length of the rocket, and a lot of teams will position it underneath the nose cone, which is fine. Don't forget that the capsule has to be able to be opened both in order to insert a chip or whatever you're using for your crew before launch. And then you should also be able to relatively easily open it up just to check the status of the crew after the launch. So don't forget that that needs to happen. We recommend that teams don't just test their capsule on the rocket itself. There's lots of ways to test the capsule for their crew in the classroom. So they can drop test, they can even do a little impactor test, they can shake test, they can do all kinds of tests. That's how NASA would do it, right? They don't just test things on a full flight. So encourage them to do that. And that's easier for you guys because you don't have to go outside and do the whole thing with the water every time. Some teams may want to add length to their rocket by adding multiple 2-liter bottles. We saw this last year. A piece of advice for that is, if that's fine, you can see that lots of examples of that on the internet, but make sure that the bottom bottle, the one that you're putting the water and the air in to pressurize, don't cut into that one and then tape it to another one. You're just going to create something that probably is not going to be able to hold the pressure. Keep that bottle intact, and then you can just add to it. Teams can use a parachute, that's fine, or they don't have to use a parachute, that's an option. And then it is possible, if maybe your team really wants to use an egg or some other kind of thing that's fragile instead of a chip. We didn't want to use eggs because eggs are really expensive and they're edible and they're gross when they break, all the reasons. But if your team really wants to use something else, they can. But if you're attending an in-person hub event, we will only have chips. Okay, so make sure to bring your own materials. Okay. Please encourage your team to use the engineering design process. Again, there's resources in the companion course, but there's a misconception often among students that the first design they have in their heads and build is the best design and the only design, but that's not true, and that's not true for NASA either. So make sure that they have the opportunity to iterate on an initial design and improve it, because that's really what we're trying to teach them. That's the skill that we're trying to give them as they move on to their futures and maybe themselves become professional engineers. I'm going to skip that slide because if you guys were in the PD, you already saw some of these slides. But the main thing I just want to say about the rocket flight itself, I'm going to let you guys just get straight to the point. The main way to build a stable rocket is to create a rocket whose center of mass, or also called the center of gravity, is higher up the rocket or closer to the nose than the center of pressure. That's the whole reason why we put fins on rockets like this that are traveling through the air. So that's going to be something that hopefully the team and the students discover as they're building and testing their rocket, is that they need to adjust their fins, or they need to adjust where the mass is on their rocket in order to create something. You really want the rocket to fly off on a straight path from the water launcher rather than flying off in some ziggy-zaggy curved path. Okay, and again, you don't want to just tell them this. You want them to understand what it means and discover it. So there are resources in the companion course to help them discover this. Okay, the Aquapod launcher, our good friend. Okay, I would like to remind everybody we picked this launcher not because it's the best launcher available, not because it's the most reliable launcher. It is the launcher that was light enough and cheap enough that we could literally mail hundreds of them out to educators. And we also didn't want to pick a launch system that was really just a box of PVC pipes and other units so that you guys would have to spend a day building something. That being said, it does have some downsides. So if you got the deluxe rocket launcher, it came with its own little pump. That pump is not great. It'll work, especially if it's the one without the pressure gauge. If you have a better bike pump, like any bike pump will work, but if you have one with a pressure gauge, you might find that that works better with the rocket launcher. You want to make sure that the actual nozzle that you're hooking into is intact in the aquapod launcher. You've got a good connection with the bike pump. It's got its lever in the right way. That's usually up, but for some bike pumps, it's down. And then it's nice to have that pressure gauge because of this next point. These particular aquapod launchers do have a safety valve that senses the pressure. And if the pressure exceeds about 40 PSI, for some of them, it's less than 40, unfortunately, it'll start releasing pressure. And normally if you go over that limit, it's going to release, it's not going to go back exactly to 40. It's going to release way more pressure than you wanted. So it's best just to pump it up just below that limit so you don't hit it in order to get the highest possible launch. You will need to apply some lubricant to the inside of the bottle's nose to make sure that it slides off the launcher when the string is pulled. So for some of you guys might have tried doing this without that, you'll pull the string to launch it and the bottle will just still be stuck on the launcher. That's when you need a little bit of lubricant. You also want to make sure that the actual hook keeping the bottle on the launcher is engaged before you start applying pressure. It's possible that it looks like it's almost engaged, but it's not quite engaged, and then the thing blows off the launcher before you expect. And then again, especially if you're doing this with a classroom full of students, these things are not perfect. So take a little bit of time with just a naked water bottle to go out there and just make sure you understand the equipment and make sure that it's actually working well before you try it with a large group of students. It's possible that these things will break. They're not the best. So if it's really not working, it may be that your equipment is broken or maybe there's a bigger issue. So if that's the case, please send us an email and we can try to help troubleshoot. And we do have a video here, a short one that you can watch that can get you started with the aquapod launcher if you need more support. Okie dokie, we're getting there, guys. I'm not going to read through this whole thing, but I can tell you that I recently talked to an educator that had a story about a student getting hit in the face with a water bottle rocket. It happens because you're sitting right over it, sometimes using the bike pump to provide pressure. And these things do come off the pad with a lot of velocity. They could really hurt somebody. So please do be cognizant of these safety guidelines and take them seriously to make sure your students don't get hurt while they're trying to complete this mission objective. Okay, I think that is my last slide. 1 minute to spare for an hour. I know that's a long time for a presentation, but we like to get you all the information that you need. And I will pause there for as many questions as you guys have.
We don't have any other questions in the chat. So you guys are welcome to unmute yourselves, raise your hands and whatnot, and we'll answer everything as we can.
No questions. All right. Maybe I'll have questions for you guys. How many people have tried a significant portion of the challenge with their students? Go ahead. Samantha's got a question, or a couple of people do. We'll go Samantha McCoy. Why don't you go ahead and ask your question?
Okay. I got the email that said that the thing is going to be the social media thing. I just signed on Facebook to see the posting.
Mm-hmm.
Will it just come out at 6?
Yes. If
Okay.
I'm sorry. So Samantha, hang on. Let me.
Yeah.
Quick to see.
We've got some fancy software that we can preset the posting time. So.
Okay, so Samantha, I see that your shout out is for Monday, March 10th at 6 p.m. So yeah, and the links to our social media were there. So you can go ahead and look then. If you follow us, we'll follow you back. So that's one way for us to gets real live supporters. And you can also take a screenshot if your school doesn't allow you to use Facebook or whatever, the social media on site. You can take screenshots and show your kids that, yes, they did in fact post them for them.
Right. And if you had two teams and only got one email, could there
Uh,
possibly be a problem with the other one?
No, if you're, okay, we had almost 300 submissions. So we're trying to only, like, you tell us when you want us to post, and everybody has chosen the 3 to 6 p.m. slot. So we're trying to to do what you guys have asked, but that's pushed the amount of time out that we are posting. And we've only got one little student assistant posting these as quickly as her little fingers can allow her. So if you've only got a notice of one, but your roads educator shows that you've got 2 teams or 4 teams or 5 teams, just keep in mind, we're posting them as quick as we can. They are being posted in the order that you submitted. So if you submitted one team early and then one team later close to the deadline, there's going to be a break between when they post. So please just give us a little bit of grace here. We're trying to get through them as quickly as we can. And we've posted quite a few already. I think we have 100 or so left to post. So there's about 2/3 already on our sites.
Okay, thank
And
you.
a couple people want to know the Facebook site. So I'll drop our links down in the chat. Give me a moment to get that to you all, and it'll be all 3 of them.
And you can find those links, by the way, they're kind of hidden at the bottom of our web page, but they're always there, kind of like they are in a lot of web pages. Lonnie, why don't you go ahead and ask your question?
Last year I brought an elementary team and we needed to bring parents. What's the rule with middle school teams? Is it just me or do I need to bring parents?
What event are you going to?
Hopefully Washington.
We are in Washington. Okay. Well, that's a Deanna question. I think middle school teams don't need parents.
No, middle school teams don't need parents. However, if you have more than one team that you're bringing, you will need 2 adults. So you'll need a second adult. We'll have to do a background check on them and whatnot, just like we did last year. Does that make sense?
Yep. Great. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. Other questions?
Sorry, you might have answered. This is Lalita. When did you say the MDL will be posted tomorrow?
Oh, the form
to download and.
So the MDL template is available in Mission Objective 1. Tomorrow, what we will post is the submission form for checkpoint 2. And that's where you can upload your team's initial MDL. But if you look in Mission Objective 1, and maybe I can quickly find a link for you. We already have a MDL template that the students can use to get started. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, because that's the one we want to start. So,
hang on, I just had that up. Hold on for a second. If you want to go answer another question, I'll post the MDL template because I just had it up. Hold on.
All right. Does anybody else have a question or concern or anything? Feel free to unmute. Okay.
Dr. Snowden.
Yep.
It's kind of going back. I don't want to slow anybody down.
Yeah.
The capsule on the rocket. You said that one is explained closer in detail, like regarding the chip and everything, how to incorporate that into the model.
Well, into the design.
Into the design, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what we have, it's kind of open-ended, frankly, how students choose to do that. In the companion course lesson, we do, if you want something more formal, we make reference to a JPL educator lesson that it doesn't use chips, but it has a similar thing where student teams are building a capsule, but that's not particular for one to go on a water bottle rocket. So we don't have again, it's kind of open how students choose to attack that mission objective. So we're happy to give your team feedback if they want feedback on some ideas they have.
Okay.
But the main thing is, yeah, like I said, the main point is we are going to be using chips. We're kind of assuming you guys are using chips, and by chips, I mean Pringles chips or something the same size as that. But we know that some of the teams are going to want to use something else, and that's the case. That's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Because I'm keeping track, who asked about the middle school students at our event? I did not.
That was Lonnie.
Strong, Lonnie Strong?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lonnie. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, hold on. I got a bunch of questions. Okay.
Oh, okay. They're all coming in on the chat.
Okay. One of the teams, and this looks like this is from Meg Fulkerson. One team wants to know if they can take starter plants to space. In other words, can they start with the plant that is already started? They keep killing.
Oh, yeah. If they want to, they can do that. So this is for, gosh, mission objective 4, I think.
Or yeah, growing food on the moon.
Yeah. Yes. If they need to start with a starter plant, they're not good at growing plants from seed. That's fine. The main point of that mission objective is to get them to kind of think and quantify what it means to actually feed a whole crew on the moon. Like how many plants would they need to grow on the moon? And to figure that out, of course, they'd have to investigate that with an experiment on Earth. So if they can't grow seeds, that's fine. Yes.
And Meg has a question for the end regarding the Texas event, which we'll take offline.
Okay.
Easling wants to know the deadline for checkpoint 2. Kelly, what location are you at? And I will be very honest with you all. The book and your challenge manual and what we've been telling everybody is the 10th. We did not realize that so many schools would be doing their spring break, what I consider to be 2 weeks early when we started down this path. So there will be a little bit of grace for the due date. However, keep in mind that our first event is in April, and that poor coordinator will have gray hairs if we push it out too late. So please get things to us as quickly as you can. I would rather plan for more people and fewer people show up than plan for fewer people and more people show up, because that becomes a nightmare for us. So we're going to extend it a little bit, but please, the earlier you can get it in, the easier it makes for all of us, especially since we pushed checkpoint 1 out. All of the coordinators are eating their fingernails. Please, please, please turn in early.
Yeah.
And Kelly's in Idaho. Okay, great. So that's going to be Susan that you'll be working with there, Kelly.
And Susan's, as you probably know, is easy to work with. So yeah. Any other questions that you have in the chat?
None that's in the chats. Alicia Johnson sent me an email, which I will answer to her directly.
Okay.
And again, it was about having younger students. So I'll take care of that offline for our event. We're good and clear for everything that I see so far. So if you guys want to go and have dinner.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll go ahead and close it down. I'll just say one more thing. If there's something that we can provide as an organization to you as an educator that will help you take teams to this event, something for the school principal or something like that, feel free to reach out and we can try to provide that. But yeah, more details to come. And thank you guys for joining us. And we hope that you and your students are enjoying the challenge.
So Darcy, I have just one last question.
Okay.
Last year, I know we are not closer to the hub, we are in Wisconsin, but I was able to go to a local university and you were able to cover the transportation. Are you doing again this year?
Yeah, on a case-by-case basis, yeah, we can do that. It's, again, I don't want to bring up the situation that we're dealing with. The federal stuff is making some of these in-person events a little bit harder for us to make any kind of guarantees. Okay. So I'm not going to say for sure, but contact us with the event you want to go to and some of the dates, and we can try to work that out. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm stopping recording
Okay.
and